The 1970s, a time of bell-bottom jeans, lava lamps, and wild experiments in everything, including food. America was changing fast. Families gathered around TV trays. Kids ate neon-colored cereal, and brands were willing to try anything to catch attention. It was a decade of ambition, when the future tasted like powdered drinks, freeze-dried meals, and artificial colors. Some products were brilliant. Others were, well, disasters. Today, we're going back to that groovy decade to rediscover 13 forgotten American food from the 1970s, products that promised to change the world, but ended up vanishing forever. So grab your shag carpet and pour yourself a glass of nostalgia, because some of these flavors deserve to be remembered. Imagine cereal so dense that one spoonful was said to contain more nutrition than a full breakfast. That was Kellogg's Concentrate, the space-age cereal that promised complete fuel for modern life. Marketed in a plain white box with minimal design, this wasn't a cartoon-filled kids' cereal. It was aimed at adults who wanted to eat like astronauts. The flakes were tiny, almost like compressed crumbs, with a flavor somewhere between vitamins and sawdust. Still, it had fans, people who swore it gave them energy all morning. But to most Americans, it simply didn't taste like breakfast. By 1977, it quietly disappeared, replaced by sweeter, more colorful cereals. Today, collectors pay hundreds of dollars for unopened boxes, a reminder of when breakfast tried to be futuristic and failed. The cereal that promised the future, but ended up tasting like the inside of a vitamin bottle. Everyone knew 7-Up as the Uncola. So in the early 70s, the brand decided to break its own rules. Introducing 7-Up Gold, a darker, caffeinated version with spicy, cola-like flavor. The marketing was bold, a golden liquid in elegant glass bottles, promising sophistication and energy. But when loyal 7-Up drinkers opened the bottle, confusion hit. Instead of the crisp lemon-lime flavor they loved, they got something closer to gingerbread and caramel. Reviews were brutal. One newspaper headline read, "It's like 7-Up went bad. On purpose." Within 2 years, 7-Up Gold was gone, leaving behind one of the strangest experiments in soda history. When 7-Up tried to be cola, America said, "No thanks." In the 1970s, the TV dinner was king, and Morton decided to take it one step further. Their idea? Supersized pot pies, twice the size of the classic version. Marketed as a real man's dinner, these giant pies were filled with chunks of beef or chicken, thick gravy, and buttery crust. They took nearly an hour to bake, but that was part of the ritual. Families would sit down in front of their brand new color TVs and enjoy what felt like a homemade meal. But as the decade went on, America's habits changed. Microwave ovens became common, and frozen pizzas replaced slow dinners. Morton's massive pies no longer fit the fast-paced life of the late 70s. By 1978, the line was discontinued. Today, they're remembered as the last gasp of an era when dinner meant waiting, not microwaving. The pie that was too big, even for America. Few cereals were as visually striking as Pink Panther Flakes. Bright pink, sugary, and full of marshmallows, it was breakfast straight out of cartoon. The cereal was inspired by the Pink Panther animated show, one of the decade's most stylish icons. The box featured the Panther himself, lounging with sunglasses, promising kids a cool breakfast. Parents hated it. Teachers complained about sugar rushes in the classroom. But for a few years, it was a hit, until the cartoon's popularity faded, and with it, the cereal. By 1975, it was gone. A cereal as fun and fleeting as Saturday morning TV. When the Pink Panther left television, he took breakfast with him. Long before the 1990s Easy Squirt craze, Heinz had already experimented with colored ketchup. In the early 70s, they tested versions in green, yellow, even purple, trying to appeal to kids and fairs. But the world wasn't ready. Ketchup was sacred. It was supposed to be red. Early taste tests found people were disturbed by the idea of green ketchup, even though it tasted exactly the same. Heinz shelved the idea quietly. Ironically, they brought it back in the late 1990s, and it failed again. Some ideas, it seems, just can't be forced, no matter how colorful they are. America wasn't ready for ketchup that didn't bleed red. Cooking in the 70s was all about convenience. And General Foods thought they had the next big thing, tuna twist. A packet of seasoning mix that turned canned tuna into an instant gourmet meal. Just add mayonnaise, mix, and serve. Commercials showed smiling moms whipping it up in seconds while the kids cheered, "Yay, tuna twist!" But reality didn't match the ads. The seasoning was odd, a mix of cheese powder, onion, and something fishy that didn't quite work. It didn't taste like tuna salad or dinner. It tasted like confusion. By 1979, the product was gone, joining a long list of too convenient to care foods from the era. Dinner in a packet, gone faster than you could mix it. In the early 1970s, the frozen dinner was an American obsession, and Libbyland decided to make one for kids, a meal that looked like a cartoon come alive. Each Libbyland dinner came in a colorful tray shaped like a Western ranch or a circus. Inside, mashed potatoes molded into stars, meat patties shaped like animals, and a tiny dessert with rainbow sprinkles. The commercials were pure 70s charm, a cowboy mascot shouting, "Howdy, partner." Dinner time's fun again. But behind the fun packaging, there was a problem: taste. Parents complained the food was bland, overprocessed, and full of preservatives. One magazine review simply said, "It looks better than it tastes." By 1976, the fun was over. Libbyland dinners vanished as quickly as they appeared. Another victim of a decade obsessed with convenience over flavor. A dinner so fun kids loved it until their parents tried it. Picture this: a box of crunchy little triangles that promised the flavor of pizza in every bite. That was Pizza Spins, General Mills' attempt to bring Italian flavor to the snack aisle. The idea was great, the execution not so much. They tasted faintly of tomato, oregano, and cardboard. Kids loved the concept, but quickly lost interest. Moms stopped buying them after discovering how greasy they were. By 1975, Pizza Spins were gone, leaving behind a generation of kids wondering why their pizza tasted nothing like pizza. The snack that tried to be pizza and fooled no one. In the late 70s, Willy Wonka candy was at its peak, weird, colorful, and often a little too much. Tangy Taffy was no exception, a sour, chewy strip that practically glued itself to your teeth. It came in wild flavors like Sour Apple Zap and Cherry Blast. The ads featured kids making over-the-top faces as the sourness hit, a perfect reflection of the loud, experimental candy culture of the time. But Tangy Taffy had two big problems. It stuck to everything: your teeth, your wrapper, sometimes even the shelf. Kids preferred softer, easier options like Laffy Taffy. By 1980, Tangy Taffy had been quietly replaced. Still, for those who remember it, that shock of sourness remains one of the most vivid flavors of the decade. The candy that stuck to your teeth and to history. This one came straight from the space race. Marketed as NASA-approved snacks, Space Food Sticks promised to bring the future into your lunchbox. They were chewy, tube-shaped energy bars, halfway between a candy and astronaut fuel. Available in chocolate, peanut butter, and caramel, they were promoted as the perfect food for space-age kids. For a while, they were huge. But as the Apollo missions ended, public fascination with space faded, and so did Space Food Sticks. By the late 70s, they disappeared from shelves, leaving behind the faint taste of artificial chocolate and dreams of space exploration. When the space age ended, so did its snacks. If you grew up in the 70s, you probably remember this one. Jell-O 123 was a dessert that magically separated into 3 layers when it set. The bottom layer was firm gelatin, the middle creamy, and the top light and frothy. It looked like something from a sci-fi dinner table. The commercials called it the dessert that makes itself. And for a while, families loved the novelty. But making it wasn't easy. You had to blend, chill, stir, and time everything perfectly, or it would fail spectacularly. By 1977, the magic wore off. The product vanished, remembered fondly as one of Jell-O's most ambitious and messy creations. 3 layers of magic, 1 recipe for disaster. Now, this one was truly legendary. The Marathon bar was a chocolate and caramel braid nearly a foot long, wrapped in bright red packaging that bragged, "The candy bar you can't eat quickly." And they weren't kidding. Each bar was dense, sticky, and chewy enough to last through an entire TV episode. Kids loved it. It felt like getting extra candy for your money. But the production cost was too high, and the long shape didn't fit standard shelves. By 1981, it was discontinued. Still, for many, the Marathon bar remains one of the most missed candies of all time, a symbol of when even chocolate came with a challenge. The candy bar that was too long to last. Our final entry wasn't just a drink. It was a cultural icon. Tab Cola, Coca-Cola's first diet soda, became a symbol of the 1970s lifestyle, slim, stylish, and a little bit rebellious. Marketed mostly to women, Tab's ads featured models jogging, laughing, and living the light life. Its artificial sweetener, saccharin, gave it a metallic aftertaste, but fans didn't care. Tab wasn't about flavor, it was about attitude. For decades, it survived as a cult favorite, long after the 70s ended. But in 2020, Coca-Cola finally retired Tab, citing low sales. For many, it marked the end of an era, a goodbye to the soda that defined a generation's identity. The diet soda that made the 70s slim and disappeared with them. Every product we've talked about today tells a story, not just of flavor, but of a time when innovation mattered more than perfection. The 1970s were fearless. Companies dreamed big, failed big, and left behind flavors that still echo in memory. Because food isn't just about taste, it's about culture, about who we were when we opened that box, poured that soda, or took that first bite. So here's to the foods of the past. They may be gone, but never forgotten.